examine each item in a systematic manner. You should not leave out a subset, and there is no point in working on the same subset again and again. So you should consider each set once and only once, because already the number of items to consider is too large. You can't afford to waste your effort by considering the same set again and again. So how do we do all this bookkeeping? This is where you need a representation of the solution space. One interesting representation of a solution space for this kind of a problem, which has 2 power n items, is using a binary tree of n levels. In a binary tree of n level, you can see that 2 power n leaves will be there, and now this would have the combinatorial explosion, right. So this has level 0, this has got 1 items, 2, 4, 8, 16 and so on. So what I am going to do is, I would associate those 2 power n subsets to the 2 power n leaves. There are 2 power n leaves and 2 power n sets to be considered. So I am going to associate. How do I do the association? I must have a meaningful way of doing association. I cannot simply arbitrarily associate. So I give the following interpretation. If it is in the left, I interpret that as belongs to, and if it is right, it doesn't belong to. And each level I associate a particular item. So A1, A2, A3, A4. Let us say 4 items. So if I take a left turn, I include an item. If I take a right turn, I do not include an item. So let us consider here. So I start from the root, okay. I include, if I am turning right, I am including A1, okay, and if I am excluding A1, I would come to this place. So I am including A1, and then when I proceed to the right, so I am excluding A2, and then I am including A3, and I am excluding A4. Therefore it is A1 I have included, and then I have excluded, and A1, A3. So this leaf is corresponding to A1, A3. You want to know to which leaf A2, A4 corresponds to? A1 is not included, so come here. A2 is included, come here. A3 is not included, go here. And A4 is included, come over here, and this is for this set. So in this way, for each set I can associate a leaf, and for each leaf you can associate a set. Now tell me, which leaf is representing empty set? Rightmost. A1 is not included, A2 is not included, therefore this corresponds to the empty set. Similarly, everything is included, this corresponds to the whole set. So from the empty set to the whole set, all subsets, there are 2 power n subsets, everything is included by or represented by some node or other. So this is a representation of a solution space. Once you have a representation of the solution space, exploration of this solution space can be done by tree traversal. For example, you can do in-order traversal or pre-order traversal or post-order traversal, anything you can do, because those traversals visit the nodes of the tree once and only once. Especially you can do some computation when you reach a leaf, okay. And for example, if I perform the in-order traversal, I can start from this, okay, and then before visiting this I should visit this, before visiting this I should visit the left one, and so on. First I would visit this, then I would backtrack, and then I will visit this, then I would go back here, and then I come here. After visiting all of them, I would go back and come here, and so in this way I would do. So I am going to go forward and backward. I will go as much to the forward as possible. When it is not possible for me to go forward, I backtrack, and that is the reason why this technique is called backtracking. So backtracking is nothing but a systematic exploration of the solution space based on its representation. Typically we will have tree representation. Why tree representation? we are looking for? We don't want to visit a node again and again. If there is a cycle in a graph, you start from a node, you go to various node, again you might come back into that, and all these kinds of complication will be there. So if it is an acyclic structure, it is better. And it should be connected. If it is disconnected, and if your solution space representation has got isolated islands, then what will happen? After finishing this, you have to jump and take the control to another one, and after that you have to maintain, monitor which island I am in. All these kinds of problems will be there. If it is connected, I let the process go and it goes everywhere automatically, and then it comes back. So you need a connected acyclic representation. Connected acyclic representation means a tree representation, and that is what I have targeted and I have got here. Okay? It's a natural way of looking at things. There is a messy collection, right? Totally unrelated bunch of subsets of a set. 65,000 of them. How do you organize them? A beautiful way of organizing them is a tree structure and binary tree structure. And how would you systematically explore each of them? Make a traversal. So go down, up and down in the tree, and this is backtracking. So what you can do is, you can build up a particular value at each internal node called partial sum. The partial sum is whatever is that particular internal node correspond to. For example, you have come to A1 and you have come to A2 and then you have come over here, means whenever you are taking a left, you add the value corresponding to that level. Because you have A1, you have also included A2, so up to this you have a set which has A1 and A2. Had you come to the right, A3 is not there. So the same value is carried out here, which is mentioned as add 0. So when you are at a node, and if you have a partial sum, if you are taking a left turn, add a value. If you are taking a right turn, add 0. In other words, simply pass m as such. So when you do that, and when you are coming to a leaf, the partial sum there is nothing but the sum of all the items in the set represented by that leaf. Because what is a partial sum? Whenever an item is there, you are computing that value. So when you are here, you will have A1. When you are here, you will have A1 plus A2. If you are here, you will have A1 plus A2 only. But if you are here, A1 plus A2 plus A3 you will have. Okay? So compute once on the fly. You don't have to compute again and again. So come over here and compute A1 plus A2, and when you are here, A1 plus A2 plus A3. When you go back, you don't have to recompute. That computed value is here. And when you are coming to the right, the same value is passed on here. Therefore, A1 plus A2 will come even here. And if you are going to the left, A1 plus A2 plus A4 will be computed. Now you are at a leaf. There is no left child or a right child. Is A1 plus A2 plus A4 31? Is A1 plus A2 plus A4 is 31? Yes. Therefore, you are going to output an answer yes here. Go back and then come over here, and here you will have only A1 plus A2. And when you have A1 plus A2, is A1 plus A2 m? A1 plus A2 is 24. It is not m. Therefore, you are not going to consider this set, and so on. So you go back and forward and then systematically perform it. Very simple recursive code. In fact, if you look into the full code, it may not even be of 5 or 6 line long. That is all. Because you have a solution space representation and you have to write a simple in-order traversal program, and when you are at a node, you are going to compute the partial sum. The updating the partial sum is also simple. If you are going through the left, you are going to add. If you are going to the right, adding 0 is not anything important. You simply pass that value down and then have the value. So every node will have a value called m, and that m is initialized to 0, and then that m is updated on the fly when you perform the in-order traversal. If you are at a root, see whether that m of that node or that leaf is the target value. If it is not a target value, that is not the set you have to output. If that is a target value, output that set, proceed further, and in a systematic exploration of the size of the tree, in order traversal etc. take time proportional to the size of the tree. Here the size of the tree is exponential, that is inevitable. There are 2 power n sets, and each of the 2 power n set you have to examine. There is no way you can afford to ignore certain things because you don't know, that could be the answer, right? And that is the reason why the straightforward backtracking is going to take this much amount of time. Now comes the pruning as a catalyst. How do I prune this further? Pruning means the following. Suppose you know that there is no possibility of the sum is seen or visible in a particular path. You don't have to go down. From there itself you can backtrack. For example, if I know that at this point there is no possibility of any solution whatsoever, when I backtrack from here, then all these things are pruned. In other words, all the node visit, computation, everything is saved. Therefore, what I need is, at any given node, is it worth going further or I should not go at all, right? If there is no point in going further, you know that there is no answer, and that is what pruning tells you. Ignore everything which is not going to contribute for your answer. Okay? So, if you are at a particular point and if you are sure that the further exploration down that particular node is not going to be of any help to you, prune it away, ignore, proceed with the other part of the computation. In other words, if I could draw pictorially, suppose you have a big tree, okay, you have a big tree, and suppose you are here and this is going to form this subtree, and at this node itself you see that none of these sets over here can really contribute for the answer. Then if I could guess it, one way is go all the way down and explore every node and then say that none of them are there. But if I could get this right here, I can backtrack from there and avoid all this computation. Okay? So, this is called pruning strategy superimposed on exhaustive search. Exhaustive search will be done on a tree structure. It will be some traversal of the tree. At every node, when your control is there, you see whether it is worth going further or not. If it is not going to contribute, then you can prune it away. I will give you a very simple pruning strategy. You have at every stage, you are at an internal node, you do compute what is known as the partial sum. Let us call that by the notation partial sum PS. So, when you are here, you have computed a partial sum. Okay? Suppose the partial sum here is greater than m. Tell me, is it worth going down? Obviously not. Well, when you say obviously not, with a kind of a assumption which I haven't even told you yet, okay, I assume that all the numbers are positive. If some numbers are negative, you don't know, some of them might cancel and then this could become m. But for the time being, these are all going to be the finished times of scheduling jobs and so on. We will assume that all of them are positive numbers. Okay, because they are positive numbers, once I am here and if I find that PS is greater than m, absolutely no point in going further down, and a whole bunch of nodes you save, you don't have to explore. Okay. So, this is a pruning strategy. There are other pruning strategies. With simple computation which you do over there, you can have effective gain on them. Okay. So, can you think of any other pruning strategy? Huh? You have the numbers sorted. No, the sorting is not permitted. The reason why sorting is not permitted is we are considering, okay, that constraint comes from the resource allocation setup. Let's consider that these are considered as atomic entities that you cannot sort them, okay. You cannot sort them, you have to consider them as the value are, and as and when you encounter it, you are going to decide. Huh? Okay, Ps equal to m is another scenario where there is no point in going further down. There is another interesting scenario in which there is no point in going down. Could you hit that? Huh? Yeah, that is what is written here. This is one condition. See, this is a scenario where it is too large. If it is too small also, there is no point in going further down. But how do I assess whether it is too small and useless? Suppose you are at a stage corresponding to ith level. So what are all the elements left with? You are left with ai plus 1, ai plus 2 up to an. Suppose Ps plus all these values is still less than m. Is there any point in going further down? There is no point in going further down, because you are in a position, the current sum is Ps. Even if I include everything, I am not going to get m. By considering some portion of it, all other nodes are going to have only some considered, some of them will be removed and some of them will be considered and so on. So, it is going to be still smaller. When this sum itself is smaller, in other words, from here, when I go by the leftmost one, I am going to get a set, and all these sets are anyway going to contribute only a smaller sum. Even if this is not going to meet with m, none of them is going to have m anyway. So, this is another condition, but this can be pre-computed once for all. Okay. Have an array a1 equal to an, or an minus 1 equal to an minus 1 plus an, etc. Just to compute it once. Okay. All you have to do is, when you have at a level, okay, just check whether it is greater than m, and then just check whether Ps plus ai plus 1 is less than m. So, this is one check and this is another check. Just do these two checks and avoid unnecessary things, and for a random distribution of an input, this is capable of filtering significant amount of saving for you. Okay. So, these are all enhancement, practical enhancements possible. Now, you have seen two ways of pruning. Can you think of two more ways of pruning? Can you be some more insightful enough to discover certain clues at any given node and then say there is no point in, under this condition, there is no point in going further down. In other words, the entire subtree is pruned away, you backtrack from that point onwards. Can you think of two more strategies? These two are reasonably easy to see. You are convinced that under these circumstances, if this happens in a node, there is no point in going down. Similarly, can you think of two more conditions? Huh?
Number 3. Suppose the sum we need is odd.
Yes.
Suppose odd be given or even.
Oh no, that one you can initially eliminate that one, right? The parity check is something which when you do, in some sense, the parity check and equality check which you are doing here can be carried out. There are two other strategies, ingenious strategies. This is where you need to see beyond the obvious.
Summation of the set greater than.
That is a special case of this, right? If this partial sum is less than m, no subset is going to contribute m. So that you will discover when you are getting the getting this an, etc. a1. You don't have to even get into the tree for that. The question is, when you are at a node, what are all the things you can do? And it should not be very complicated, it should be fairly simple, like this one comparison and this one addition, and like that simple test you should do, and then avoid big follow-up computation. Okay? Really clever, really clever test. Discover it. I want you to struggle for it to discover it. I don't want to tell you, the test is very simple. If I tell it, you will really curse yourself. Why it is that it didn't even occur to me, right? It's very nice one, but I want you to find out. See whether you are creative enough to look into. Now you understood the problem, context and everything, and you want to look into some properties, a test of which would allow me not to proceed further and backtrack from that point itself. This is how pruning is superimposed on the backtracking strategy and act as a catalyst. Many problems have got only exhaustive search as the solution. That is the only way in which we could do. Yesterday somebody asked me, there's some given some alphabets and what kind of combinations of them would lead to a particular word or not. All those kind of things fall into the category of exhaustive search. Any exhaustive search, if you want to do, you have to get a representation of the solution space. Once you have the solution space, exploration into that solution space can be done in a systematic way, and you can see in a discerning way. Now, if I don't have this representation, this pruning itself will not be visible to you, right? See the beauty and power of this representation of the solution space. Without this representation, if I simply ask you, I will give you 1024 sets, okay? Find some clever way of avoiding some subset computation. How do I know which set will add up to m and which subset is going to add up to not m, and which set I should avoid and which I should not avoid? You can't pass any meaningful comment on that. But when the sets are represented in this way, you could immediately see the pruning strategy coming live, and then you are able to implement it and make it faster. Okay? So, shall we take a break? 10:30. Yeah, question there?
I was wondering if we could start with the right hand side of the tree.
Yes.
Then once we have backtracked,
Yeah.
then come down, we have a pre-computed value. Then at that level, for every tree,
Yeah.
we would already have pre-computed.
No, we couldn't have computed for all the nodes in that level. For example, when you are performing that traversal, you keep going to the left and then keep adding the value and got the sum. When you backtrack, you have only the information at this node, but not all the nodes across the level.
We start from the right side. So,
That is empty set.
right. Now, at some point when they have backtracked,
Yes.
from that, when we take the left side,
Yes.
all the left sides for at that particular node
Yes.
will have the same value, whether we take it from here or we take it from
This partial sum, wherever you take it. Because when you are at a node, everything on the leftmost will be the sum of all the values, remaining values, right? Which is what is given here. And what you are saying is nothing but this test. You are at a point whether all of them, adding all of them, is leading to m or not. Virtually you have rediscovered this condition, except that you looked at it in a different way. It's a correct condition, but it is same as this. This is the sum of the left extreme path. Some of the values you will find in the left extreme path. Okay. We are going to see one extension where a more solution space that has got much more than 2 power n items. In fact, we are going to see a solution space that is having factorial n items. How would you organize the solution space containing factorial n items that we are going to see. The spell checker which you are looking for is falling into this category. Factorial n, you know from Stirling's approximation, is n power n. Okay, 2 power n is way smaller than n power n, and number of permutations you have is factorial n. So if you want to consider set of all subsets, that is 2 power n like. If you want to consider all kinds of arrangements, it is factorial n like. And this solution space is consisting of lot more numbers and lot more items to examine. So you have to be honestly clever in handling this, otherwise you are lost, right. We have seen already factorial n you cannot handle even for 20 in a realistic sense, right. Therefore, how do we handle this? We will see after the break. So let us continue our discussion on pruning. We have seen a solution space whose size is 2 power n. Now we are going to take a look at solution space which is of factorial n size and introduce a clever way of pruning. We are going to propose more enhancements. This technique is also known as branch and bound, but the way in which we are going to look at it is a natural extension of what we have done, so that you will have a hierarchy of mechanisms available at your disposal and you will choose properly among this collection. That is the reason why I am presenting it in this sequence, and you get the perspective in a continuum, right, from one possibility to another possibility in a chain fashion, chain like fashion. After discussing that, I will discuss the so called local search and then show how that is extending in a natural way to simulated annealing, a technique that is extensively used in optimization problem, and we will have discussions related to all of them. And this is my plan from now to the lunch break. Okay. So one solution space whose size is of order factorial n is set of all permutations, and a problem which has got such a solution space is a popular puzzle. This is a traveling salesperson problem. So you are given a network of cities, okay. So so you have a network of cities like this, and you have flights or links between these cities. A salesperson has a headquarters in one particular city. He has to visit all the place and then come back to the headquarters. Many Infosicians may be interested in such a problem. Your organization is distributed all over. At least Eugene must be very keen to know the solution of this one. How to start from Madras and visit all Infosys center and come back to Madras, and with as cheap price as possible, number one. And obviously you would not like to visit the same city again and again in a given trip, in a tour. So a tour consists of starting from a node, visiting all nodes in a graph once and only once, and coming back to that node. And such a visit is called a spanning cycle. A spanning cycle means it covers all vertices. Cycle means it is something like this: no vertex is considered more than once. If the graph is complete, that is, if all pairs of edges, all pairs of vertices are connected by edges, then every permutation would define a cycle. You start from 1, go to 2, to 3, to 4, 5, 6, 7 and back to 1, or you can go from 1 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 1. Even this is possible because all edges are there. You take any two vertices, there is an edge. So you can first visit from city 1 to city 4, 4 to 3 and so on. So this is the interpretation of it. In other words, you can take here any permutation P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6 and 1 you can have. So what are these 6 elements? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So consider these 6 items. You permute them in any way, doesn't matter. Therefore, except 1, everything can be permuted arbitrarily, means n minus 1 factorial. Therefore, the number of tours available is n minus 1 factorial. Phenomenal amount of tours are available. When so many are available, okay, how are you going to organize this solution space? And pruning is very essential in this context. And the problem which we are trying to solve is called optimization problem. Optimization problem is a generalized version of the search problem. And in every optimization problem, from the solution space element to real numbers, there will be a function called cost function. So cost function is a function from solution space to typically positive real number. So this cost function associates a value to every solution. And you are interested in finding not simply a solution, but you are interested in finding that solution whose cost is lowest or highest. If it is a profit, you would like to maximize. If it is an expense, you would like to minimize. So maximizing or minimizing problem, a common terminology used is optimization problem. Okay. What is the cost of a tour? The cost of a tour is whatever is the individual cost defined in the tour, you add up and that defines the cost of the total tour. Okay. So there will be a cost of going from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 and 4 to 5 and so on. Add all of them and that would define the cost of this. For this again, for 1 to go you will have another cost, and 4 to 3 there will be another cost. Add all of them, etc. So in general, we are going to not use this kind of a messy notation. We have a very clean notation called cost matrix, Cij, and Cij is the cost of traveling from city I to city J. Okay. This could be a symmetric matrix or asymmetric matrix, that depends. Okay. There may be several possibilities. So Cij is the cost of going from I to J. Having fixed this cost, you add all the cost and you will get the cost of a tour. Each tour is a solution. So you are interested in a tour whose solution is the minimum. Okay. So first the tree representation. The tree representation goes as follows. Let us consider, this is called the permutation tree. Starting from 1, you can go to either 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Having decided to go to from 1 to 2, from 2 you can go to 3 or 4 or 5. All these are possible. Having decided to go to 1 to 3, you can go to 2, 1, 3, 2 is possible, and 1, 3, 4 and 1, 3, 5. Having decided to go to 1, 2, 3, you can go either to 4 or you can go to 5. After 1 to 4, you can go to 3 or to 5. You have to avoid this. You cannot visit the same node again and again. And 1 to 5, you can go to 3 or you can go to 4. I am not expanding all of them. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, 2, sorry, 1, 2, 3, no, this is 5. 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 3. So like this you have, and now you can see that 1, 2, 5, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5, 4, 3, okay, and number of leaves are 6 here, and similarly when you expand you will get 6, and when you expand you will get another 6. Okay. So this is 1 into 2 into 3 into 4, 24. There will be 24 leaves, which is 4 factorial. And this is n minus 1 factorial. I am considering 1 as fixed, 2, 3, 4, 5 I can do in any order, and every order will be recovered by one node or other. So what does this path correspond to? This path correspond to 1 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 1. So 2, 5, 3, 4 is a permutation, and here 2, 3, 5, 4 is used, like that, and here 1, 3, 2, 5, 4, all permutations. So factorial 4 permutations will be represented. N is 5, there are 5 numbers, 1 is put on the top, n minus 1 items are there, each one is generating the trees, and this is not a binary tree, as you can see, right. So this is not a binary tree, and the number of leaves here is factorial n minus 1. So this is a representation of the solution space. As this is not the binary tree, your typical thing like in-order traversal etc. is difficult to perform. Okay? Therefore, I am not going to consider those type of systematic exploration of each node. Another important limitation in the method that we have seen is that the agenda is fixed, the locus is fixed, your exploration order is fixed. Start from there, you keep going in a one particular way, and if you happen to see some pruning, you avoid further thing, but you backtrack, but your plan is fixed. The order of exploration is fixed. The disadvantage of having such a fixed exploration order is the following. If the solution happen to be found at the far end, then you will tumble upon it after a lot of effort. Okay? So instead, I don't want to fix a priori my order of exploration. Okay? I won't even tell you how I am going to explore. I will evaluate all the possibilities, come to some kind of a judgment, and then explore in that way. Therefore, depending on the input, I might go ahead in a different way. Okay? For example, you might say this one, if you want to first go to the leftmost and then take the next one and then take the next one and all, that is a fixed way of doing it. If you do it, what you should do? You should first exhaust all these paths, and then you have to exhaust all these paths, and so on. That is a fixed agenda. I am not going to do that. I will first look at all the 4-1 and then see where if I go, I am likely to have some kind of a solution, and where I don't have to go at all. Okay? And where I see a promise, I go there. Right? Therefore, the structure could be same. For one input, based on my judgment, I might start exploring this part of the tree, and for some other input, I might start exploring this part of the tree to begin with, and so on. So, anything is possible, any order is possible. In other words, I have first given me little more degree of freedom by untying myself from that fixed route exploration. So now I have flexibility. But again, the flexibility should not make you to go hayward in the structure and then totally be lost in that either. So I am going to do certain controlled fashion. What are the two things that I am going to do at every node? At every node, I am going to have the following. One is a lower bound for the cost of all solutions, for the nodes in the subtree. A lower bound at a node X subtree rooted at X. In other words, if you imagine a subtree, this is a big tree, and if you imagine a subtree rooted at X, it has got lot of solutions. This is a solution space. Each leaf is a solution. So there are a lot of solutions here. Each solution has a cost because there is a cost function associated with it, and I have told you this is an optimization problem. Sorting is not an optimization problem. Okay? Compute this and that. Matrix multiplication is not an optimization problem. You just got to do that. Here, several solutions are there, and I am interested in finding the cheapest solution. Okay? So here there are several solutions, and what I am going to do is I am going to find a lower bound Lx at this node. For all these costs, I am going to find a lower bound. Notice that this is only a lower bound. Okay? It is not the minimum, it is a lower bound. So if the cost is 100, 200, 700, 900, 150 like that, your lower bound could be 25, right? 25 is the minimum cost among all the solution. But that 25 is not a very good lower bound. Probably something like 90 looks like a decent lower bound because the minimum is something around 100, and getting a lower bound something like 90 looks like a better way of assessing the quality of the solutions there than having a weak lower bound. Therefore, you have to come up with very clever strategy of getting a tight lower bound or as much good lower bound as possible. Okay? And this is where the quality of your solution also lies. Okay? What Lx would say is that the minimum cost for all solutions in this subtree is this much, not minimum, lower bound is this much. So what I do is I find lower bound for this, I find lower bound for this, I find lower bound for this, and I find lower bound for this one. And what I would do is I would expand or explore, further exploration will be continued on the smallest of this, of the lower bounds. Okay? Because that is where I bet. I have roughly looked into the properties and I said this must be the minimum for this and so on, and I have each one of them. Okay? But remember, things could be misleading. Okay? For example, the minimum solution, for example, there could be two trees here. The cost of, let us say, for the sake of comparison, suppose there are two solutions here and two solutions here. The lower bound for this, okay, the actual cost is 500 and 600. The lower bound for this may be estimated by you are not exploring all solution, you are using some thumb rule to arrive at a lower bound. The lower bound may be 100. And the cost of this solution is 250, cost of this solution is 275, and your lower bound process has estimated by you are not exploring all solution, you are using some thumb rule to arrive at a lower bound. The lower bound may be 100. And the cost of this solution is 250, cost of this solution is 275, and your lower bound process has yielded 125 as an estimate. Yes, 125 is a lower bound for this, 100 is a lower bound for this, and you are going to expand this node and explore further. But you can obviously see that is misleading. The better solutions are here, but then there is no way of knowing anything about it when I have only this much exploration of the structure done. I have done only up to that, and there I have some thumb rule to have the lower bound, and I got the lower bound. And then I am going to expand on